Chop's pinnacle pearl dragon was the small reward he promised Nguyen Lin Lo at the end of round 1, so as soon as he finished speaking, he let it fly back to her hand. After receiving the delicious food in Nguyen Lin Lo, she stopped crying and complaining. Obediently reached out to receive it, hearing the prodigy say that the blood he had just given her had 3 uses. Firstly, it can suppress the king beast, helping Nguyen Lin Lo escape easily for a certain period of time. The second use is that drinking it can change the user's physique, of course in a positive way, and ultimately it is used to replace some rare medicinal ingredients that are hard to find during cultivation. So when it comes to offensive and defensive abilities and cultivation, all of them can be met. Nguyen Lin Lo knew how to put her hands together to thank Lao Long Vong immediately, swearing that she would definitely not disappoint Long Vong's sincerity. Then, after giving the prize to the runner-up, she said a few heartfelt words, but it was the beauty queen's turn. Today, he crooked his finger and told Nguyen Lin Lo to step back. The moment of inheritance had come for him to crown Tabin. What did old Dragon King say? Nguyen Lin Lo, full of determination, said in his eyes that Tabin only needs 5 years. I will chase away human life. Number 3 years is enough, it must be better. She said goodbye, turned into beams of light and flew out of the Dragon King's space, leaving behind 1 person and 1 dragon who was now getting down to business. Old Dragon King stared at him, declaring that he should be mentally prepared to accept the pass. The galaxy scene where the two were standing was like a broken glass, revealing the golden light from the other world seeping through. Very quickly the whole space collapsed before Tabin's eyes. He thought that the small gift that Dragon King had just given to Nguyen Lin Lo was quite good, making Tabin extremely looking forward to the inheritance, that there was something engraved on him enough to make him go crazy. The scene of the Milky Way gradually gave way to another space shining with golden color, where there were cliffs and the sky stretching out without end, from the sky hanging down a few large chains, holding a coffin. Made of gold, it floats as if it had been there for hundreds of years. The old Dragon King's voice resounded. This is the original world of Dragon Soul. Inside it was yellow because the treasures stretching endlessly were emitting light that was now mixed together to the point of being blinding. To be honest, Tabin has a place of sand. People say that dragons have a tendency to accumulate treasures, but here it is truly worthy of the Dragon King's inheritance. There are many things to pass down. The treasures here are at least level 8, including the Beast King level used to attack, defend, practice flying, and ride. All kinds of shapes from hammers and sickles, maces or spears, even torches, seahorses, or even a giant glowing chariot column. Each item has so many different looks. I don't know how much time Long then spent searching for it. These treasures are all cheap. Anyone who likes them can take them all. Anyway, after the end of their inheritance, here it just turns into ashes. He said the weapons were stuck in the ground, but the coffin hanging in the air didn't mention whether it could be used or not. That sounds so generous. Tabin had to ask again. Are all the treasures here really gifts, not heirloom crowns? If you bring another person here, saying that this is a reward, surely many people will almost die of happiness. And if the old Dragon King is willing, Tabin would like to be willing. The Chinkin picture book came out from his space. He waved his hand and let the scroll fly above the pile, sucking everything within range into the world stored inside. There are so many things here, the scroll has to be opened longer and longer to fly above to scoop it all up. At the end of its possible length, it opened again, just like that, rushing back and forth to collect all the pieces inside. On the clean earthen temple there was nothing left but sand. The empty scroll stopped and wiggled in front of the coffin on high. Tabin was puzzled and asked why these coffins were not collected. Is that strange? Old Dragon King was at a loss for words with this brat, knowing what was in the coffin that people had to tease him like that and demand to flatter him. Seeing that he couldn't smoke, Tabin didn't bother to stand there for any more time. He walked over to a large area of water on the sand temple and asked if this water was sure he wouldn't use it for bathing. So I'll take it too. This guy owns a store as big as a mountain, but his plunder is no different from the thieves at the bottom of society. In the end, Lao had to speak up and take Tabin to the important part, letting this brat smoke until tomorrow morning. The main part had just opened, the fire from the beginning burned fiercely on the ground and on the chains around the coffin, causing it to quickly burn down, leaving only the coffin floating in the air. The old Dragon King told him to prepare a beautiful soul, and then the coffin lid gradually opened to reveal the true body of the Dragon King. Planting it like a withered corpse inside a burning and cracking coffin is exactly what the messenger receives. The main character's true Dragon King came here. As soon as he finished his sentence, the withered dragon corpse gradually disappeared into blue points of light, gathering together to form the image of a white dragon with blue borders, or rather, all the soul and essence of the old Dragon King are gathering into a new shape. Today, the dragon coffin protecting my immortal body has been broken. My life force has reached the end of its hiding place, so I will move forward to let the person who receives it take it completely. The white dragon's phantom roared loudly, becoming the next generation of the true dragon. Then it roared towards Tabin with its mouth open. Having said this, he realized something was wrong. Tabin thought that receiving the transmission would give him some kind of ability to make himself stronger, but he did not expect that this old dragon was looking for a completely new being. After entering that person, he will change his entire body into true dragon's bloodline, causing Tabin to suddenly take a few steps back. That attitude of refusal made the old man confused, asking what was dissatisfying about my bloodline. As soon as I finished asking, I saw a giant yellow hand lifting the white dragon's body with great ease. Tabin did not want to receive Lao's announcement without having time to say a word, so he had to use his golden black demon body to grab the dragon's body and lift it up as a warning not to advance any further. In front of the majestic, muscular body of the golden crow god demon, the Dragon King was like a wriggling worm. He immediately realized that this was the next generation of the Golden Crow God and was so scared that his teeth would fall out. His mouth opened wide and he stammered, asking why. Why are you the heir of a long-lost bloodline? Oh, help, just asking. Why are you squeezing the old man's broken body like that? Luckily, this is just a soul, but if it were a real body, it would have turned into a dragon mixed with salad. My friend, don't do that. Needless to say, the old Dragon King was startled by such an unpredictable change, but the soul leaving the body could not be left hanging in the air for too long. He must definitely find a host first. He must have been old and started to go crazy. Seeing that the dark dragon dog didn't have the golden black demon body, he rushed towards that place, screaming. That squid dog, you stand there, thinking you have 100,000th of the dragon clan's bloodline. I will give you the task of shaking up the great performance of our true dragon clan. The dark dragon dog who came here to meet his master suddenly had a dragon crawl into him, forcing him to inherit the inheritance. The dog let out a strange howl. No one expected that the lineage would actually be passed to the black dog. Tabin glanced at him and wanted to be surprised. How could he be so fake? Did he overcome so many challenges to come here to help his dog receive the inheritance? Before he could fully digest the situation, the dark place where Long Kuyan had just stood turned into a giant yellow egg, covered with many vertical and horizontal things like cows. Oh, so Tabin's black dog really became the embryo for the egg, officially becoming the heir to the inheritance. Nguyen Lin Lo, after receiving the fruit from the Dragon King, immediately left Long Kot Thap and landed on the ground below in anticipation of the Nguyen family. As soon as grandfather saw his granddaughter, he immediately asked her about the situation. Had she gotten her inheritance yet? Nguyen Lin Lo's face darkened, she bowed her head and mumbled to call her grandfather. He single-handedly raised her from childhood to adulthood. Just that was enough to send an SOS signal. Nguyen Thien then immediately created a soundproof energy shield for his grandchild to confide in. What happened in the end? She hesitated, starting with an apology, then knelt down on one knee with a trembling voice, skipping the beginning and middle, including the ending, the inheritance being stolen by Tabin. Please, Grandpa, please punish me. Nguyen Thien Angel received the news from her nephew and was both sad and worried. He had expected this in advance, but the Nguyen family had been preparing for Nguyen Lin Lo to receive the inheritance for so long, so he still felt a bit disappointed. Nguyen Thien then himself experienced the battle with Tabin. He couldn't blame his niece for losing to him, so he helped Nguyen Lin Lo up and asked if Tabin had been injured anywhere. Nguyen Lin Lo lay holding Grandpa's hand, but her face was still bowed, only blaming herself for not being able to. Even with all her strength, she could not break the defense of Tabin's pet beast. Having said that, was it really only Tabin and his pets who came to steal the inheritance? Although there was official information announced by Tin Kong that the elite battle was attacked by wild beasts causing a large number of human casualties, but the inside reality was only known to high-ranking people in Longjiang City. It turns out that Tabin is the main cause of that. In addition to the fact that Nguyen Thien then had asked very carefully, that day there was indeed only Tabin and not the short blonde girl, he immediately understood that Tabin did not rely on others at all. Destroyed the Tin Kong alliance and the four great families and became the true ruler of the Tin Kong organization, which turned out to be Tabin. From start to finish, it's all him. Is Tabin's strength far beyond ordinary titles? Grandfather did not punish her, so Nguyen Lin Lo turned to show off the gift Dragon Vong gave her, seeing the way her granddaughter put her hand in her chest to hang a hook like that. Nguyen Thien Angel was speechless, put on a tight shirt and stuffed things into it. Are you a girl? Speaking of the gift given by the Dragon King, Nguyen Lin Lo had a smile on her lips, boasting that this was the extremely rare crystallization of the Dragon King's blood, and wanted to go back to practice so that she could have a chance to win against Tabin in the future. Nguyen Thien looked at the 3 drops of dragon blood floating on Nguyen Lin Lo's hand and stroked his beard in satisfaction. Not because this item is rare, but because Nguyen Lin Lo was unusually happy this time. In the past, even though her training was difficult, she was often frustrated and easily became irritable and dissatisfied with things that did not satisfy her. This time, facing Tabin himself, he somehow learned to become unusually calm. If after this battle my granddaughter has learned a lot of interesting things and has grown significantly, with the addition of the secret treasure bestowed by the Dragon King, this inheritance was not in vain. After all, the biggest asset that Nguyen Thien then has is still this orphaned grandchild, enough to satisfy his stomach. But the work of Nguyen Thien then and the Nguyen family is not done with Tabin yet? He destroyed the soundproofing curtain and told his niece to go home first. Tabin's strength has always been a thorn in the ass of the leaders of Longjiang City like Lao. In order not to be threatened, Nguyen Thien then did not want the position of Dragon King to fall into his hands. He needed to prevent Tabin from receiving the inheritance. Nguyen Lin Lo obediently obeyed, told him to be careful and then retreated. The group of people Nguyen Thien then brought early started with Lao on a trip up to Long Kot Tower to find Tabin. On top of Long Kot Tower, Tabin has been looking at this yellow egg for a very long time. The air around it was seriously disturbed, strange whirring sounds were heard and the pressure of the dragon pressing on it caused something unusual inside the cocoon itself. This was not the space specifically summoned by the old Dragon King, but just the top of the tower, so Tabin heard virtual noise from below. He wondered what was going on down there but didn't want to go down to see. He just reached out and touched the cocoon's shell, which became increasingly yellow. Wondering what the dark dragon dog was like in there, its consciousness seemed to be in a deep sleep. No matter how Tabin called, it wouldn't wake up. The body has been wrapped here for half a day. The Dragon King cooked the 7-dish dog dish, which has been passed down for so long. No matter what, I will wait for you here to protect you. In the end, whether you are a dog or a dragon dog or whatever, I will be able to wait. What if it turns out to be a dog with the head of a dog and the body of a dragon, or a dragon that barks woof? I don't know what Tabin would think at that time. To be honest, he had never heard of any legend that a dog was possessed by the dragon god's soul. He was just waiting for happiness. As soon as he sat down cross-legged, he suddenly realized that countless weeds were growing at the foot of the cocoon that were not there at first. Obviously, the soil here cannot naturally be rich in nutrients, but something must be nurturing them. Looking around at all the small pieces of spiritual energy scattered in the air, Tabin suspected that the abundant dragon energy essence in the cocoon was rushing out. By soaking the ground below, the grass grows as quickly as it takes several months, even though the dark dragon dog has only been in there for a few hours. If so, how could someone like Tabin take advantage of the opportunity to miss it? Taking the opportunity to absorb the spiritual energy leak will be very good for cultivating to achieve the best results. There's no need to try to draw spiritual energy to yourself when the spiritual energy here already makes the air thick. So now he will stay here and kill time by immersing himself in this morning light, ignoring the screams below. Hoo oh ow me, don't eat me if I don't have eyes, it won't taste good. The two men were wearing the same clothes. Nguyen Thien Than's men screamed and ran with all their might outside. For 7 consecutive days, underneath Long Cot Tower, many people tried to enter but could not get past the ground floor. Nguyen Thien then stood listening to his subordinates report that in Long Cot Tower, there was an extremely strong dragon force entwined. Even the level 9 porcelain gun could not escape the mental repression and fell into an illusion. That's what was going on here. Nguyen Thien then lost his temper and told them to bring in more spiritual defense secret treasures. Sir, we have been looking for a way in for these 7 days. Not even a turtle can fly out of Long Cot Tower, let alone a person like Tabin. Could it be that he ran away early? Or not? Nguyen Thien then immediately dismissed it, looked up at the top of the tower. There was still terrible spiritual energy radiating out, so Tabin was definitely still up there. Think about how to get up there. I don't believe we can do anything to him. As soon as he finished his sentence, the top of the tower emitted a blinding yellow light, as if Big Bang's concert was opening up there and the backdrop effect was being illuminated. The group of people stared at that pillar of light, then panicked and realized that the person they had been looking for these past few days had already gone out. His feet wearing shiny shoes appeared floating in the sky, blocking the golden light, but it was not the light shooting from the tower anymore, but the light on the body of a supergiant dragon. T-Ba. The whole body exudes a genuine 4 No. 9 yellow color. The spiritual energy in the space is stirred up due to its appearance. Its majestic eyes and 4 large horns on its head, curvy body highlight the small black dot of Tabin next to it. Gliding around in the sky for a long time, enjoying the wind blowing through the red hair on its body. Then the dragon opened its mouth and let out a roar with 30 sharp teeth clearly visible. It displayed a majestic golden dragon, creating an extremely huge pressure on the people present at the foot of the tower, unable to bear it and knelt down. Even Nguyen Thien then could not bear it and used his old back to support him. And what is that dragon? The feeling of oppression is so terrible. Its shape somewhat resembles the 5-pan golden dragon that tops the dragon rankings, but it's clearly not it. At this time, Tabin no longer danced with dragons but flew down above the heads of Nguyen Thien Than's group, curled his lips and asked who he said earlier that he didn't believe he couldn't do anything. Nguyen Thien then was struggling against the weight on his shoulders. His face was sweating like a bath, silently cursing that this guy knew and deliberately asked. The golden dragon that the subordinate just mentioned is just a peak level 9 in pure bloodline. This one in front of him is not it. His mouth whispered, please raise it high and hit softly. The first sentence he opened his mouth to say was when he bowed down, because Nguyen Thien then looked at the golden dragon in front of him and immediately knew that this was a king-level giant dragon. Surely its bloodline from birth has been that of a purebred noble dragon. The royal majesty and dragon prestige make people scared to death, and the name Tabin standing next to it makes people even more scared. It was like he wasn't affected by the pressure from the dragon, on the contrary, it was more like he was the one creating that pressure. Tabin curled his mouth, clearly showing sarcasm. What did this old man say? He raised it high and hit lightly. He hadn't made a move yet. Hey Nguyen Truyen KY, do you feel the pressure is that great? Why can't Tabin feel anything? Damn, this son of a bitch asked a stupid question but secretly increased dragon prestige and immediately descended into the surrounding air, deliberately crushing Nguyen Thien Than's ego. If he hadn't eaten Anna's food that day and his cultivation was still the same, he probably wouldn't have had to endure such a faltering situation. But last time or this time, neither could deal with Tabin. Nguyen Thien then knows what he wants. Funny question, what do these people have for Tabin to ask him what he wants? Still keeping his indifferent face, he reminded Nguyen Thien then, with so many people and such strong momentum, it was clear that you guys wanted to kill me before completing the inheritance. Tabin already knows all about their plan, so what else can he say? Nguyen Thien then always said that this was a misunderstanding, nothing like that. Tabin did not say more. That day he did not injure my family members, so today I also did not attack Nguyen Lin Lo. Now Longjiang is my area. From now on the river water will not violate the well water. The dragon standing next to Tabin opened his eyes and stared at the group of people in front of him, then opened his mouth and blew out a stream of smoke as if repeating his words. I don't know what to do, do you hear? He jumped onto the head of the waiting golden dragon, adding that he hoped Nguyen Thien then would stop doing stupid things like before without understanding the situation. The dragon was so dominant that he agreed to be his mount. Only then did Tabin jump up into the crowd and stand up straight. He thought that was it, but somehow he turned back and asked in a low voice, did he understand, but got no response. Nguyen Thien Than's face was cold, scary and extremely impatient as if threatening. Nguyen Thien then immediately obeyed, which was a natural thing that no one dared to object to. Only then did Tabin ride a dragon and fly up to Cloud 9. This dragon had no wings, but the way it soared into the air like a donkey arrow caused the people standing nearby to be thrown away, only to watch as his master and servant disappeared behind the flying deck. One person and one animal flew high above the visibility of the Nguyen family, and the dragon shape inheritance skill was released. The yellow layer on the outside gradually dissolves and blends with the air. You think a black dog will be revealed, right? But that's not it. Only the fur on its back is still the color of ink. The entire body of the dragon dog is covered in a layer of smooth, luxurious yellow with a combination of T-horns moving down the armpits, giving it the majestic appearance of the lucky person receives boundless power. Remember the days when the dark dragon dog was just a dog whose owner died but no one took it in at the mischievous pet store? Now it has had its blood completely changed. The 100,000th dragon bloodline has now become a true dragon with a strategy of 14.2 and has reached the upper level of level 7 combat power. From the day I stop being a black dog, the dark name Long Kuyan will disappear. From now on, let's call it Thien Long Kuyan Dai Dien. Bringing in new techniques related to dragons such as the dragon shape technique, which is the golden dragon transformation as you just saw. Dragon Prestige Hoang Kim great performance makes people with spinal degeneration be careful. If they don't know how to do it, just kneel on the ground. Looking at the information board of Thien Long Kuyan Dai Dien, Tabin remembered what the old Dragon King had said to him earlier. Because this black dog was originally Tabin's pet, it had to have a low-level owner for him to be able to control it. Currently, the old Dragon King entering it must seal 90% of its power with 3 layers of magic to prevent it from exceeding the level that Tabin can control. He said that's right. After opening the first layer of seal, the dog's level and strategy will reach the realm of emptiness. If you tear off the second layer of seal, you will reach the realm of destiny. Currently, his pet dog has not fully received the inheritance, because when the final seal is opened, it will officially succeed and enter the star realm? Isn't the star realm even higher than the legendary level? No wonder the old Dragon King had the foresight to seal it from the beginning, because if he released all his power into Thien Long Kuyan, Tabin himself would be betrayed. So the only way for his pet dog to reach its peak of strength is for Tabin to become stronger to have the ability to control it. Although this old man was a bit strange, his thoughts were extremely thoughtful. Tabin bowed deeply to thank him and his soul disappeared. Once he has entered his pet, his strength and will blend together, and the remaining time will only be enough to instruct Tabin so much. Tabin took the dog Thien Long back to space. He alone returned to his pet shop with full thoughts. Duong Nhu Yen seemed to have been waiting for him for a long time. As soon as he saw Tabin coming, he immediately came forward and held out a card saying that it was sent directly to the store owner from the mainland area. The black background and images of all kinds of dragon and phoenix pet beasts mixed together meticulously were the logo of the Pet Master Training Association of Tan Quang City Base, inviting him to a unique cultural exchange. Did he come or did he think this place was a waste of time for nothing? And what was the background of these people to design such a Batman-like invitation? The invitation was on the table, the time and place were clear, but Tabin didn't know why it was here. He had heard about the Tan Quang City base as a place but had not had a chance to research it in detail. He only knew that the profession of teacher training developed very well there. You have to find someone with extensive experience and extensive knowledge of the cities to ask. The person Tabin came to was Gi Han Viam. He just texted Lao. If he didn't come down for a while, I'd talk to him a bit. He didn't reply but always acted hot. On the outer satellite of Lam-Tin, a spacecraft departed from outer orbit, penetrated the atmosphere and quickly descended into the airspace of Longjiang City Base. Instead of landing at the airport or any area reserved for spaceships, the spaceship instead landed on its tiny wheels on the ground in front of the mischievous pet shop during a busy time of people passing by. Such a majestic presence attracts so many people to come and take videos and photos of all kinds. It's not easy to see a spaceship landing in the inner city. Passers-by praised him for being cool and all sorts of things. Bin was just bored. That's Gihan VM's style. He should have warned him first. He's overdoing it. To talk about the details, a somewhat lengthy introduction is needed. Gihan VM chooses the level of the introductory cities. The scale and safety system of the base cities are divided into 3 levels, A, B and C from high to low. The C-level base city has both the smallest area and the most dangerous place among the places, with only the strength to prevent level 9 beasts from collapsing. These places are few in number and are often located in outer areas to act as outposts. There are more B-class cities than C-class cities with larger scale, able to withstand afternoon beasts and some king-level beasts. And the city of Longjiang where Su Bin is opening a store is this B-class city. Finally, Class A cities are superior in all aspects compared to other cities, built so solidly that even a king's beast is difficult to destroy. Because of their high level of safety and huge scale, there are only 7 Class A cities in the world. Mainland only. And Tanquang City is one of those 7 places, so we know that it has the ability to provide people with more development than the population of other places. Master training is a type of profession in which the person doing that profession has a very clear understanding of the methods of strengthening and nurturing battle pets. Like a blacksmith who is responsible for forging powerful weapons for warriors to use in battle to kill the enemy, the position of a trainer is also extremely important in the job of cultivating powerful war pets for war pets. Use. Tanquang is the land where this profession of teacher training was born. In the past, there were many people who took care of and trained war pets, but they reached a professional level and created their own path. It must be said that it originated from Tanquang City. There are all training methods from all over the world gathered there. Calling it the Holy Land of Training Teachers is not wrong. During their most glorious period, the trainers in Tanquang City continuously trained saint-level trainers, with the same strength as legendary-level battle pet masters. The Holy Spirit level is not just a name, but the trainer of this level possesses the ability to open the spirits of all things, cultivating king beasts with sky-high power. They are the ones who single-handedly improved both the quantity and quality of contemporary legendary-level battle pets. Because no matter how strong a battle pet master is, without high-level pets, they cannot maximize their power. It's just that gradually the number of saint-level master trainers is becoming less and less, causing the number of legendary-level battle pet masters on the continent to decrease sharply. Currently there are not many, because this Longjiang base city has only Nguyen Thien than and not many. Currently, the Association of Master Trainers has sent an invitation to Boss Bin. He must have received information about the battle pet master he trained shining brightly in the elite tournament, so he wants to attract talented people. After hearing the information, Bin couldn't help but ponder. He had no interest in joining the gang at all. But although the current combat power has reached legendary level, all activities related to raising pet beasts depend entirely on the power of the system. Currently, he does not know which hole his system came from, so he is afraid that one day the system will be broken, and the entire store's operations will certainly be stopped. If this time the experts in raising pet animals have come, Bin also wants to grasp the opportunity to be self-reliant. He glanced over and asked Gihan VM how to get to Longjiang City. Since traveling through time to Lam-Tin, Bin has never left this city. He is not familiar with means of transportation. Instead, he uses spiritual energy or rides hell dragon beasts, but it takes a whole month to arrive. Gihan VM bowed his head and said he would launch a spaceship to quickly take Bin to Tanquang City in just an hour. He immediately dismissed it as too outrageous. Gihan VM did not think it was unusual. Normally, now that Boss Bin's status has reached the legendary level, the association's people will certainly welcome him with the most solemn ceremonies. Maybe all the people there would rush out to see him, so Gihan VM proposed such a grand way to appear on the canvas. I thought I was going to a distant city to practice my skills as a trainer, not a prehistoric dinosaur in a museum that I wanted to attract others to see. Looking at Gihan VM happily activating the flight path for him, Tabin quickly asked if there was any other way. Hearing him say that there is a more affordable way than using the subway, Tabin found that means of transportation quite good. Even though it took 2 days, it was fine to see a little sightseeing along the way. After all, he wasn't in much of a hurry. Let Gihan VM finish booking the tickets, and when the day comes, Tabin just needs to show up on the train. But when he arrived, Tabin realized that the concept of the means of transportation that people often use, and the popular means of Gihan VM, were two completely different issues. Clearly he and Gihan VM didn't get along. The popular subway he mentioned was not the underground train that anyone could buy a ticket to use, but a submarine that swam under the ocean with a generator. Electricity. Looking at the view full of fish outside the glass and a bunch of luxurious people like at a 5-star restaurant, Tabin was speechless and didn't know what to say. This morning I brought a plate of broken rice to the sidewalk full of toppings. Now how can I get used to letting him in here? When I asked him, I found out that the ticket Gihan VM bought for him cost nearly 1 million 7-star currency, which was higher than business class. It's true that the normality of people of Gihan VM's caliber is completely different from what Tabin thought. Next time, we'll have to check carefully with him. Suddenly heard the noisy roar of a red dragon hybrid dog nearby. It opened its mouth full of fangs and barked loudly, the 2 fins on its lips spread out fiercely, causing the diners to quickly hide in fear. Whose dog is let loose without a muzzle like this? Someone do something? It's also a dragon and a dog mixed together, but this one isn't as good as his thin-long dog. It turned red, growled and glared at people near it as if it wanted to rush in and attack. Its owner, wearing a blood-colored suit that looked similar to a dragon dog, was loudly pointing at a little girl wearing a pink dress, angrily asking, "What are you feeding my pet? My dog is trying to bite someone else but that guy doesn't hold it and instead criticizes someone else." Tabin did not want to get involved but just silently observed the situation in front of him. It is said that this mermaid is very sensitive to sweets and sugary foods. Maybe the little girl didn't know that, so she gave the dog a piece of food that made it go crazy like that. But the owner knows that his dog's personality can easily get out of control, so that guy in a suit should have known better than to call him out in public like that, right? The owner's side continued to argue. The charming red dog became more and more out of control, rushing towards a nearby person, intending to bite him and get acquainted. That customer was so scared that he wanted to pee his pants. He just screamed for help but couldn't do anything. Luckily, Tabin took action. From behind he hugged the pet beast's neck and squeezed it tightly. The beast let out a howl. The longer it was in Tabin's throat, the tighter his grip became. He didn't want to kill it but just wanted to grind it. I had difficulty breathing and fainted for a moment. Unexpectedly, the beast screamed louder and louder, foaming from the mouth of the pot, its neck full of veins writhing violently. Wait a moment, not far from him. Suddenly a young girl with her hair tied up on both sides approached. Her seductive cross dog was in a state of madness. He couldn't control her. "If you continue like this, it will stop breathing." She walked up to Tabin, introduced herself as a foster teacher. "Let me calm him down. She looks so young, she looks even younger than Langwei's younger sister at home. This way of dressing is not that old." Tabin still follows it. He crushed the Min Sich Gao Kuyan to the floor so that it could not attack others, while the girl pulled out a familiar black glove from her body and wore it. "You let it go." When the pet beast was about to attack the young girl, her gloved hand reached out in front of the beast's muzzle. At first it still let out an irritable growl with black eyes, but just a few seconds later it closed its beak and slept soundly as if nothing had ever happened, looking just like a puppy. She used that hand to stroke the dog's head lovingly, very much like someone who had successfully coaxed hundreds of ferocious pets like this. Yet, being able to hypnotize the ferocious Min Sich Gao Kuyan into sleep in just a moment, truly opened Tabin's eyes. She knew that Tabin's eyes were wide open in surprise, so she looked up and smiled, introducing the black gloves she was wearing called the cold crystal condenser, a specialized tool for trainers, which has the effect of accurately controlling one's energy. Beloved beast, the peak's hypnotic effect cannot be resisted. Turns out he was truly experienced. Tru Lin Dong, who is studying at the Thien Long Master Training Academy, explained to him in detail, not forgetting to thank To Bin for helping her keep the dog. Its owner is nowhere to be seen when he needs it, and when he doesn't need it, he rushes over and scolds Tru Lin Dong for doing something to his beloved pet. She didn't do anything. She slowly explained that she was just using animal taming magic to force it to go to sleep. After about 5 to 6 hours it would wake up and return to its normal state. There was nothing to worry about. If the owner of this phantom Sich Gao Kuyan is a reasonable person, he will bring the beast back to the summoning space. But his tendency to cause trouble did not let him shut his mouth, but pointed at Tru Lin Dong and blamed her for making his dog lie still on the ground. She told me not to worry. She told me not to worry. If something happens to it, will you be able to pay for it? His brother calmed down a bit. Tru Lin Dong tried to explain that this Min Sich Gao Kuyan just ate too much sugar so she went crazy. Nothing so stressful. That guy saw that Tru Lin Dong spoke so softly that he couldn't hear her, so he pointed at her and told her to wake him up. But after being hypnotized, this dog had to sleep for half a day before waking up, so how could she wake him up? Seeing that this guy was becoming more and more unreasonable, wanting to violently attack Tru Lin Dong, To Bin's pale hand grabbed his wrist, squeezed it tightly, and raised it above his head. He knelt down on the ground in pain, trembling, hearing To Bin coldly say 6 short words from above, "Take back his pet." That rotten mouth still screamed about pain but refused to listen to To Bin. He looked straight at the man's eyes, repeated in a harsh voice, "Sorry," then disappeared. The murderous aura radiating from his eyes made the rich man jump back in fear, his face turning pale and not daring to act rashly. Knowing that he couldn't get away with touching something he kept, he took the sleeping dog into the summoning space and bowed down to apologize to Tru Lin Dong. The group of people shouted and cursed like people who don't know how to behave. Letting a guard dog run free in a public place is truly the action of some brainless people. The loudspeaker on the train announced that it was entering the acceleration section, inviting guests to return to their rooms. The crowd dispersed and everyone went to their places. Walking all the way back to the brightly lit business class cabin with a sign above, To Bin had just confirmed the door was open to go in and rest, when suddenly a call from behind made him turn around. The waitress brought a tray with a beautiful fruitcake on top for him to eat. To Bin was confused and asked again that he didn't order this cake. It seemed like the employee gave it to the wrong person. Pointing to the end of the business class corridor, the employee said this was Ms. Dong's cake and called To Bin to thank him for his help. That's all Trung Lin Dong waited for. He emerged from the trees and waved happily, saying this was a gift to thank To Bin for rescuing him. Nodding slightly agreeing to accept the cake, To Bin wordlessly wanted to go inside to rest. Suddenly there was a very loud noise from above, the whole train tilted. The employee couldn't stand still and threw the cake tray up. To Bin raised his hand to pick up the intact cake, raised his head and looked up to see what had just made the noise. The employee was now sitting on the ground, trembling in fear, staring at the ship's roof, which had been dented to a large extent, wondering what had just fallen to the point of deforming the entire metal block above. Not only one spot was visible on the ceiling of the train car, but it soon caved in further, causing everyone in the room to gasp and look at the pieces of debris crashing down below. The sound of someone screaming loudly was, "Fierce beast, ferocious beast attack." The train employee must have been thoroughly trained. When she encountered a situation where she was so scared that she turned pale, she still tried to remind the customer not to be afraid. There is a company of level 8 or higher battle pets on the ship. They will quickly deal with the ferocious beasts. Everyone, please don't panic. The information is very convincing but the look on the speaker's face is not very credible. To Bin held his strawberry cake in his hand and quietly entered the room and closed the door. While everyone rushed out to be excited and worried, he huddled in his room to curse, play around and avoid meals. It had been a long time since he had enjoyed anything and it felt strange somehow. Too bored to say anything, Bin turned on his energy sensing mode, scanned the surroundings, and discovered that there were indeed a group of ferocious beasts attacking the submarine. These level 7 rock blood beasts came in groups and were jumping onto the ship's ceiling, using their sharp claws to tear at the shell, trying to find a way to get inside. Among the group of rock armor beasts, there was also a much larger beast with dark armor, a level 9 black poisonous 100-clawed dragon. Wherever it stepped on, the cracks were clearly visible. There has been a level 8 battle pet of the train going out to fight, but the situation seems not very good because of the difference in strength. Bin silently cursed, saying that the day he went on vacation, a level 9 beast appeared, which was not fun at all. The dead war pets of this class moved on to another class, half of them saved the injured, and the other half took advantage of reinforcing the ship's defenses to avoid being punctured by the ferocious beasts. Bin jumped up from below to guard the ship, just as the two sides were preparing to fight each other. At a glance, the human force seems to be inferior in both size and quantity. The black poisonous centipede noticed Bin first. It looked out at him, making the captain startled and waved his hand like a fly. "What are you doing here? It's dangerous to go back." Bin didn't say a word, punching the black poisonous 100-claw a few times to make it hot. The beast's body split open, its forelimbs broke and fell loudly in front of the crowd. They were really panicked, not knowing whether they were afraid of Bin or afraid of the dead beast with no place to show it anymore. This person actually killed a level 9 demon beast in just a few seconds. Bin's whole body was filled with energy, his eyes opened wide, staring at the remaining rock armor beasts. These guys are all level 7 worms who ate a level 9 black poisonous 100-claw, and now they only have a shroud left, so they're all scared. Coming with the herd and going with the herd, the whole group jumped out in each direction, saying goodbye to Bin without an appointment to meet again. He gently landed on the ceiling of the train, his eyes still glued to the animals that had just left. The captain of the battle pet master happily clasped his hands to thank him. Their side suffered serious casualties, but fortunately, an expert came to help in time. He politely accepted the thanks and asked if this train's route was usually this dangerous. He smiled awkwardly, saying that normally there were level 6 and 7 lava beasts coming to cause trouble, but they were all level 8, so it was quite noisy. Normally that black poisonous 100-claw does not appear deep underground, but today for some reason it appeared again. Bin immediately caught his main idea and asked him again, "What do you mean he doesn't normally come down here? In the depths of the earth, there are usually only weak level hardened armored animals looking for food. This single-clawed dragon has a level 9 strategy. Logically speaking, it has more than enough power to roam and feed on the ground, but now it has also been chased down here. Perhaps there is something more dangerous than it up there." Bin finally had time to go back and finish eating that fruitcake, so he could comfortably think about what the commander said earlier. There is something more dangerous up there that makes the ferocious beasts have to go down here. It seems that the qualifications of Longjiang City's traffic guards are not very good. As a businessman like Bin, how could he ignore this matter? He decided to contact the government later to discuss contracting to train a large number of war pets for this force. A double task that can improve city security. It sounds very good for the people in the community, but the money is still collected in full without any discounts. Recalling the story of Gihan Vem the other day saying that Longjiang City base was only at level B, Bin secretly thought that this place should have been built at level A to be satisfactory. The next morning, the loudspeaker announced that the train had arrived at Tanquang City base. Bin, without any luggage, went to this station alone. "What a coincidence to meet Trung Lin Dong next to you." She gently asked if Bin was also from Tanquang City. He simply said he just came here to work. "By the way, ask her for directions to the city's Master Training Association." The question was completely normal, but asking it from a trainer turned out to be wrong. She giggled, not expecting someone to not know where the famous Master Training Association was located. Just found out that Trung Lin Dong was on his way there, so he freely asked him to come along for convenience. Thienlong Academy, where Trung Lin Dong studied in City A, was allocated an extremely large plot of land compared to Fuang Lin Academy in Longjiang City. probably 4 to 5 times larger. Outside the gate, there were soldiers standing guard. As soon as they saw two people, Tabin and Trung Lin Dong, they came and demanded to see the school badge or training documents before being allowed inside. Trung Lin Dong held up something in his hand, proving that he was a training teacher studying at the school and had just been admitted. When he arrived at Tabin, he was detained. Without papers or badge, they did not let him in. Pulling out a black card from his pocket, Tabin asked if he could use this instead. The soldier was visibly confused. The invitation from the War Charism Training Association proved that Tabin was a distinguished guest of Thien Long School. Who would dare to interfere? He put the card back in his pocket before Trung Lin Dong's admiring eyes. The people who can receive invitations from the association are all famous people in the world. Why have you never heard of Tabin? Could it be that you are a great master of cultivation and war song but you hide yourself and don't want anyone to know about you? You read a lot of novels, there's no fake president or ending here. He honestly said that he was not very knowledgeable about training. If he brought up his expertise, he would immediately see a buzz, and there were no papers related to his position. Trung Lin Dong did not believe what he said was true, his cheeks puffed out clearly. How could a novice receive an invitation from the Association of Master Training? Making a cute face won't make Tabin say more, he just coldly dropped the 4 words. Believe it or not. Trung Lin Dong saw that he was too stiff, so he changed the subject and asked him if he wanted to come see the performance in the academy this afternoon. Tabin agreed immediately, just when he wanted to learn more about the Master Training Academy and the surrounding situation. Inside Thien Long Academy, on a training ground specifically designed for pets, there are 2 players ready with their pets to take on the opponent's attack. This match is between Sam Lam Veen and Hoi Fong Tuok, officially starting. Tabin asked curiously, the Boyd Wong Masters competition allows each person to bring a pet onto the field, very similar to the way the Battle Pet Masters compete. But that's not true. Trung Lin Dong told him that they were actually wild war pets that had never signed a contract with their owners. The competition they were watching was the first assessment of the trainer's beast taming abilities, comparing who could tame the pet beast. The first round was to order the animals to only hold food in their mouths and not swallow it for 5 minutes. It sounds like the time is short, but in front of wild animals, telling them to wait patiently is an extremely difficult problem. Next is the enhancement ability test. Using specially prepared materials, the player must choose to train the pet within the specified time. They need to strengthen a certain part of the pet's body for a certain period of time to prove that they have trained in the right direction. Then let them fight each other, like the match between Sam Lam Veen and Hoi Fong Tuok they are watching now. The advantage of this match seems to be in favor of the foul-winged bird. It continuously flaps its wings and then attacks suddenly. Sam Lam Veen has no way to keep up with the speed. The green monkey's entire body was scratched but still persistently shielded itself from the bird that had enhanced wings. Sam Lam Veen opened his eyes wide, ready to passively take the beating, the commentator's voice carrying a bit of regret. If beaten in a weak spot, this monkey will no longer be able to fight. Suddenly, its back is full of sharp spikes piercing through its 2-colored fur. It turns out that the part that is strengthened is the back. It tries waiting for Lo Fong Tuok to rush in at extremely fast speed, injuring himself when he bumped into a tangle of sharp thorns. In just one flight, the thunder windbird fell into immortality because its abdomen was crushed. I understand that on the surface it seems like a beast battle, but in reality it is a comparison to see who is able to exploit the pet's potential and analyze the specific strengths and weaknesses, from there enhancing the most suitable part. Suddenly, several people appeared at the door of the exam room and called Trung Lin Dong in a friendly manner. She stood up immediately, greeted the instructor, and announced that she had just returned to the academy. The teacher's face looked very compassionate when he said, "Watching many matches is good for you. It can improve your knowledge." But the next day he dropped a meaningless sentence, saying that no matter how much you watch, the thesis will not be passed. After that, it will be difficult to graduate. The 2 guys with green heads and yellow heads walked behind the teacher and added to tease her. Even after taking a shower, they would take off their cages. As soon as they got on stage, their legs were already weak. Even tamed animals couldn't do it, but they were still here without shame. Huh. They surrounded Trung Lin-dong and openly mocked him, so go away and let the water be clear. Trung Lin-dong looked like he had heard a lot of unpleasant words from them. No matter how unpleasant the words were, he would still say yes, 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 not daring to argue a word. A person in a black shirt, black pants and even black shoes suddenly appeared in the middle of the three people, speaking on behalf of Trung Lin-dong. I see no problem with her taming animals. What are you guys talking about here? It's not fun to let me watch the match. The other two widened their eyes as a man dressed in black suddenly jumped out to speak on behalf of Trung Lin-dong. Regardless of who Tabin was, both of them changed their target to attack him. Do you know that your father is a level 6 training instructor, so he speaks up to teach life, and he's only at level 6 to scare Tabin? He was wearing a mask, but he could still clearly hear the sound of snorting and his neck was so loud, it seemed like he was level 9. The blonde guy pointed at Tabin and angrily asked if he had the guts to compete with me. Don't just stand there and look down on him. Using the training master's rules, he compared high and low skills and then spoke. Tabin does not have much experience in training according to the process, but his principle is to welcome and touch him, of course he will not refuse. To add to the drama, in addition to accepting Tabin's invitation, Tabin also asked that since he was competing, he had to bet a little to have fun, right? Does anyone want to bet on anything? The young man saw that Tabin was not afraid of death and still wanted to bet, so he frowned and asked what this guy meant. What's the point of betting on him? Money, pets or by the way, asking for a house in Kwangton City? As long as it humiliates the other person's face, Feng Jiat Luong agrees. But Tabin didn't need those things. He turned his gaze to the young man in front of him and gently uttered the words, "Extreme risk? Risking both my life and your life in an animal training match?" Feng Jiat Luong thought he had heard wrong. He was about to ask again when he suddenly saw some kind of aura from behind the black-clothed young man in front of him, as if death was approaching right at that moment. Feng Jiat Luong's sweat poured out like rain. His mood was restless and anxious, but he stubbornly cursed back, "Are you crazy or?" Suddenly, Tabin raised his head and laughed like something funny happened. He told me to just race, and the loser would just apologize. Feng was startled to see him suddenly change so suddenly. He was both confused and chilled. His eyes were still staring as if he was afraid that Tabin would change his attitude again. It wasn't until the blue-haired friend patted him again that he regained consciousness. His friend didn't see what Feng Jiat Luong saw, so he laughed and said it was nothing. Why did he write the word fear so clearly on his face? Were people scared out of his mind? Looking back, there was nothing strange. Feng Jiat Luong was teased by his friend and cursed him, then immediately agreed to Tabin's conditions. Do you dare to tease me, this guy? I not only want the loser to apologize, but also kneel down and slap myself in the face, okay? I will show you the consequences of teasing the wrong person. Tabin said nothing, agreed to his conditions and just entered the game, but Trung Lin-dong was worried and wanted to speak out against this contest. She understood Feng Jiat Luong's strength and called out to the instructor to advise him to avoid embarrassing the friend she had just met. But if the instructor had been humble, his students would not have been so aggressive. If both sides agree, the battle will be over. The stadium is ready. I will be the referee. Trung Lin-dong, you can rest assured and watch. That's not what she meant, but the teacher steered her in the direction he wanted. To stop Trung Lin-dong from saying more, the teacher glanced at her and smiled and said one sentence to stop her from saying more. How could a training teacher be afraid and bow down to others? Proving that what the teacher said was correct, the field was quickly prepared. The instructor acted as referee. Tabin stood opposite Feng Jiat Luong, fighting according to the school's rules to be fair to each other. First, the two sides are invited to go to the control panel to choose the pet that is available in the Iron Feathers. All pets have bloodline below level 3 and have only one skill on their body, which has been carefully selected to show the level of training of the students. Tabin noticed that the order of these 15 animals was arranged according to the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. For example, after the metal-type electro-optic lizard, there will be the wood-type dry branch animal. Next is a purple blood coral right in front of the Wa Liat Kuyan. The fifth in the series is the black sandalwood and then repeats the metal system again. He reached out to pick one of them, thinking that 15 numbers arranged in 5 consecutive chains like that was definitely not a coincidence. The key to the key was right here. After the opponent has chosen their pet, the match officially begins. Tabin with the thunderstorm beetle, the metal shell skill emitting a dreamy purple color, confronts Wa Liat Kuyan, the burning bite skill. Obviously one specializes in defense, one specializes in attack. I wonder which cat bites which cat. Trung Lin Dong frowned and assessed the situation. Both sides chose for themselves pets with fierce personalities and were difficult to tame, wanting to increase the difficulty of the game. Although the thunderstorm beetle seems to be inclined towards defense, its metal shell skill cannot resist the fire dog's burning bite skill. While she was worried about Tabin, Feng Jiak Luong also realized the weakness in his choice of pet. Wearing gloves with a bright smile on his lips, he seemed happy to be able to kick the black guy's ass in front of him. Tabin just said nonchalantly, "Let's go into battle now, okay?" The first match is the level of animal taming of both. In front of everyone were the two animals' favorite foods, a piece of prime rib coming back from the plain for Wa Liat Kuyan and an ear of corn just harvested on the moon for the beetles. Whoever is the first to ask the pet to only hold food for 5 minutes without chewing or swallowing will be considered the winner. According to the understanding of the people at the academy, there are 2 ways to tame animals in terms of food. One is to use rewards and punishments to teach them what to do and what not to do. Actually, this skill takes time. 5 minutes sounds short, but that's the time it takes for an animal to use up all its rations. So often the owner gives a reward. Every time the pet can hold it longer, it will receive more food. Gradually create a habit for them not to eat until given the command. The second way is to educate, not to send them to kindergarten to teach them from A to E, but to train them to use their energy to create orders to only suck on food, implanting it into the pet's consciousness. A form of both command and coercion using subconscious power, Feng Jiat Luong chose the second method because it was quicker and more effective. Looking at Tabin just standing there like a statue, Trung Lin Dong couldn't understand why he didn't do anything. Maybe if you don't have an idea, you should just stand there and watch. But in this round, time is of the essence. If Tabin doesn't move quickly, I'm afraid the pet beetle will attack as soon as he sees the corn in front of him. Feng Jiak Luong placed his hand on Wa Liat Kuyan's head to inject energy into the dog's head, but still did not forget to laugh at Tabin, who turned out to be just a careless talker. Standing there is like an outsider who can only talk but not do anything. Thanks to his amazing control of his energy, I, Feng Jiak Luong, only need to finish planting and then I can ask Su Bin to surrender. While masturbating, the instructor stopped the timer and announced, the storm pet beetle had its food in its mouth, and the match started from now on. Feng Jiak Luong thought he had heard wrong. He raised his head and saw that his pet beetle was actually holding real food. But it was very strange for him to hold it in, because his whole body was shaking with fear. From head to toe, Tabin exuded red spiritual energy, his eyes flashed with light. Just like you try to swallow, the corn is quite delicious, but just try swallowing it and see if it goes away. Feng Jiat Luong saw that his opponent was using a different method, which seemed highly effective, so he switched to snitching. Pointing at Tabin, he shouted, "Teacher, that guy is cheating." Who would do that? The teacher was still staring at the timer, calmly saying that in the competition rules there was no regulation that participants could not use their momentum to pressure their animals. It's just that no one has ever tried this method before. Who could try this method? Only Tabin, whose hands were covered in the blood of hundreds of pet beasts, could exude such an overwhelming appearance. For him, there are 2.5 types of pets. One type belongs to him and must obey him, otherwise he will die. The second type is not his, but don't disobey him, you'll die if you argue. As for that 2.5 type, it's someone else's pet. He doesn't have much to do with it, but if he sends it to the training store to make some money, it's okay, whatever. 5 minutes passed without any tension, and soon the instructor announced that the lightning beetle had won the first battle. This teacher is quite fair. After I lost, he reminded me that if I lose in the second round, I should brush off 2 pillows and kneel for comfort. After being psychologically manipulated, Wall Liat Kuyan could also hold a piece of meat in his mouth for 5 minutes without chewing. But Tabin was faster and raised his upper hand, making Feng Jiak Luong very angry. It's okay to win, and win in a strange way like a crazy person. Both confused and defeated, he was determined to win in the animal fighting round soon, otherwise he would cover himself with a blanket and cry until morning. In the second round, the raw material warehouse is opened, including a lot of food that enhances skills for pets. The 2 players can choose an item that complements the pet's existing skills. The total time for selection and enhancement is 3 hours. With fiery determination, Feng Jiat Luong immediately grabbed a bunch of dragon grass that was redder than chili peppers. Looking at it, you could immediately see that it had buffed Fire Liat Kuyan's fire specialized skill. If he chose a pet that specialized in attacking, he wanted it to increase its burning ability, penetrating the storm beetle's hard shell. With both hands and 2 fists, Feng Jiat Luong intended to cram fire attack skills into the fire dog as much as possible. Because he thinks that even though thunderstorm beetles can metallize themselves to improve their defense, no matter how hard they are still metal. When encountering fire, it is just a piece of iron grilling meat, but if the fire is too hot, it will surely pull it back and let the dog tear it apart. Tabin still put his hands in his jacket pockets and quietly walked next to the boxes containing ingredients to look. He is quite familiar with the herbs here because he has had to pick them himself many times, so when he saw something emitting green light, he did not hesitate to put his hand forward to pick it up. Trung Lin Dong looked at his movements and was so worried that he beat his chest and salivated. I'm afraid that Tabin is actually just a training chicken, while Feng Jiat Luong's level is among the top in his academy class. Right from the beginning, the chosen fire dog had the skill to control the metal nature of the beetle. No matter how much he increased his armor, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to win. This battle was destined to result in Tabin losing. The 3-hour training period ended with a head-on charge between the 2 animals. The Wall Liat dog has the advantage of burning fur and poisonous claws. Everyone believes that when facing it, the lightning beetle can only use its armor to defend its body. But over time it will gradually lose its effectiveness, giving the dog an advantage. Sure enough, Wall Liat dog quickly seized the opportunity, suddenly saw sharp teeth looking for a place to bite into the bug's body, using the burning bite skill. It puffed up high-temperature flames all over its body, galloping towards the beetle, overwhelming it in both full attack and frontal attack. Feng Jiak Luong's friend smiled happily and praised his friend for being so cool. The ability to control energy has clearly improved a lot. In just 3 hours, Wall Liat Kuyan's claws can increase the burning effect, along with those teeth that can hurt and even kill chili peppers. Already, Trung Lin Dong hugged herself nervously, not daring to say a word. On the other side, Feng Jiat Luong confidently smiled and replied to his friend, I'm not some stupid chicken outside the industry who only knows how to crow. Waiting for the red kid to take off his mask, his face grimacing, it will definitely be fun. I had to let the teacher remind me to realize this. The instructor coldly called his name and told him to be reasonable so he should go home and practice more. Pulled out of his dream, when Feng Jiat Luong raised his head, he saw Wall Liat Kuyan being fiercely counterattacked by the beetle with his whole body turned to ice. It's ice armor. Tabin changed the attribute of the bug's skill from metal to ice. Instead of enhancing metal, it used ice to counteract the fire dog's fire. At first, Feng Jiak Luong frowned in confusion. Ice meeting fire would definitely melt, a move that seemed full of mistakes when Tabin chose an element that could be easily suppressed like that. But very quickly Feng Jiat Luong realized that the situation was developing in a different direction. It's true that the beetle's ice melted, but because it kept coming into Fire Dog's body, the ice melted and became water. But water easily suppressed fire, causing Wall Liat Dog, which was originally a fire-breathing dog, to now struggle in a puddle of water desperately. At this time, the crowd realized how terrible a person Tabin was when he could change the attributes of his pet beast in just 3 short hours. This person must have an extremely profound understanding of the movement of his own energy and the surrounding objects. In addition, there must be a large source of energy in the body to control easily, specifically from level 7 up. Having said that, Bin is actually a skilled and experienced training instructor but always hides his profession. Oh, do you think he will answer if you ask like that? With that belt, Bin still wore a mask so no one could see his smile, only his eyes curled up with joy. After 3 defeats, 2 losses, now can we carry out our bet? Feng Jiat Luong took a few steps back, his head spinning inexplicably. If the guy in front of me has spiritual energy above level 7, why can't I feel any fluctuations in his body? Since there was no answer, I had to lose decisively. Feng Jiat Luong turned around and ran away immediately. Your dad won't play with you anymore. Goodbye, never see me again. Just now, Bin didn't take his hand out of his pocket, so do you think he didn't have any hands to catch it? Just let Feng Jiat Luong run, then silently use his golden umbrella body to gently rise up and grab his ankle, causing Feng Jiat Luong to pounce on the frog and pin it face down on the ground. He struggled to get up, tired of being scratched. Luckily his nostrils were still intact, clutching his stomach and his face filled with confusion. Feng Jiat Luong groaned in pain, looking around at the floor to see what was blocking him. I don't see anything and want to stand up and keep running. But every 2 steps, he fell down and turned around in confusion. Even the blue-haired boy found it strange and had to run over to see what was going on. Why is the ground so flat that I keep falling up and down? I lost so much that I'm dancing hip-hop with my head? Bin didn't force Feng Jiat Luong to go back on his knees to apologize or slap his hand or something. He wrestled back and forth and then let him go. He even turned his face towards that direction to say goodbye. Let's go slowly. There's no need to rush. I don't say goodbye. Trung Lin Dong has been holding back for a while, but now he has a chance to laugh, very happy. After the thunderstorm beetle finished its battle with the fire dog, it immediately restored its ice armor. Clearly it had completely changed from metal armor to ice state. Trung Lin Dong couldn't help but marvel, viewing this beast as a novel research object and recording that the ice and bone recovered after being dissolved. It turned out that it was not just because of the enhancement of external factors, but Bin changed the nature of this beetle into an ice attribute, replacing the metal attribute that cannot withstand fire. It only takes 3 hours to completely change the pet's armor, which is too powerful. Bin heard people asking him how to do it, so he just called and said to throw cold star punches to it. The lightning beetle will obediently absorb the entire stone to change its properties. Trung Lin Dong was puzzled and looked up at Bin. How could he force a metal bug to eat an ice stone? The bug looked strangely scared when it saw Bin's eyes staring at it. The way he crouched down caught Trung Lin Dong's attention. Perhaps it was because the fear of death had activated the full potential of the lightning beetle. In the thesis, approaching and researching how to train and refine the fire and lightning systems, and establish a comprehensive system to train the divine dragon veins, the 2 top level 9 trainers, Ho Lao and Bok Lao, also mentioned. Refer to this issue. But the pressure of energy must be appropriate, combined with a harsh training environment, to have an impact on the pet's cultivation. It is also clearly stated that spiritual energy and environmental conditions are only relative. It is difficult to say clearly how much is needed, but even the slightest mistake will result in the opposite result. Therefore, almost no one ever volunteers to do research and waste time and effort. Trung Lin Dong couldn't believe that today he would witness this magic trick that only exists in textbooks, so he immediately wrote it all down with excitement. If you were to take notes, you couldn't miss the name she asked. Bin replied, calling it a deadly way of training. The girl asked again in surprise, sounding very resolute, as if she had comprehended countless life and death matters. The instructor stood and watched Bin and Trung Lin Dong talking. A moment later when he glanced over, for some reason he saw him smiling vaguely at him. Little Dong, this friend of yours seems very talented, why don't you introduce it to me? Trung Lin Dong broke his head and broke his ears. Now he remembered that he had not told Bin anything other than his name. Introducing myself as a third-year student at Thien Long Academy, currently a level 6 instructor, will graduate next year. Turning to look at him with an extremely dignified expression, Din Thien introduced himself as the instructor of Grade 8, Thien Long Academy. Trung Lin introduced herself without asking the other person anything, causing him to ask himself, "My name is Hua Kuang." Even though we had been in contact for a long time, when asked his name, Tabin still did not want others to know his identity, so he used the name he learned to hide. Din Thien too lifted his glasses to think. This name Hua Kuang sounds strange. There seems to be no one with this name in the world of teacher training. Din Thien wondered further. His training method is so unique. Maybe he is not from this city? What is your current position? Even though he took the name Hua Kuang, Tabin still entered the pet shop owner's information to convince him. But we need to add some extra information. Our store is just a small store in a B-level city in the Asian region. Hearing Din Thien Tu's enthusiastic voice, he immediately asked, "Oh, what's wrong with you coming from so far away?" Tabin didn't say he received an invitation to come, just simply said, Tan Quang Master Training Association has it was quite a famous exchange, so he wanted to come and check it out. He was about to turn away and not talk to Din Thien Tu anymore, but unexpectedly he grasped the problem very quickly. Introducing this year's Teacher Training Exchange Conference held at Thien Long Academy, currently in the stage of preparing the hall, officially opening in a few days. Seeing that Hua Kuang was about to leave the shop, Din Thien Tu spoke up and invited him to respect the two teachers and students for a meal together, citing the reason that his student Feng Jiat Luang was bald with the wrong person, so he needed to apologize. Tabin didn't want to cause any more trouble for himself. He waved goodbye, turned around and wanted to leave, telling him to go tour the surrounding area. Din Thien Tu's mouth said not to keep it anymore, but his hand pulled out a black card that looked like a business card, saying this was his professor's card, giving it to him to use as an expression of guilt. This card provides food and some advanced privileges that only teachers can enjoy. These days, Boss Kuang is walking around the school and can freely use it. Tabin's long eyes glanced at the card, quickly thinking, could this person just come to thank him? Maybe it's because I'm too suspicious, but this teacher doesn't have any strange thoughts. He probed like that, if he saw any changes, he just needed to refuse, but when he saw attractive benefits being offered, he immediately accepted. Anyway, when traveling around school using a teacher's card, you still receive more benefits than students and outsiders. Din Thien Tu waved goodbye and kindly reminded him to use it freely. When he returned to Longjing, he could return it. Seeing that his instructor had finished his work, Trung Lindong also asked to go home first to prepare his thesis. Thien Tu did not answer the girl, used his hand to press his watch, turned on the professor card locator function. His teacher was leaving the animal fighting field with Tabin to make sure the card worked well. Trung Lindong found the instructor's actions strange and was about to go forward to ask but was interrupted by Din Thien Tu. Now, what step has your scientific project reached? Talking about the graduation thesis, Trung Lindong happily replied, the topic is low-level plant research to master high-level skills. The most complicated experiment has been completed. Next just need to compare and check the data. Then come to a conclusion. I expected it to take a few days, but Din Thien Tu interrupted her again and suddenly said, this research topic should be temporarily stopped. Trung Lindong didn't understand why the instructor said that. What did he mean when he had done it this far and still told him to stop? Trung Lindong's efforts were poured into it without any clear reason. The little girl with a dark face wanted an answer from the teacher. He answered vaguely, concluding that the topic direction was problematic and not suitable for implementation. As the person who makes the decision to graduate a student, I think he should immediately carry out theoretical research on the death training method mentioned just now. So, the girl looked down in confusion, and the teacher said that all of her research for the past year was wrong from beginning to end. Trung Lindong gently did not ask why the teacher did not speak from the beginning, but just bowed his head sadly. Din Thien Tu knew that the girl was gentle, so he took the last opportunity to whisper, you are a smart child, now start adjusting the topic. If you don't graduate this year, it won't matter if you graduate next year. All seniors and seniors have not gone through hardships to become top trainers. You also don't want to be considered the weakest person in the class, right? There is no other way. Trung Lin Dong has to obediently follow the teacher's instructions. Din Thien Tu is the only person who has the power to decide whether Lin Dong will graduate or not. This year, he has been harassed up and down because of his thesis topic, and now it is still argued that the graduation date is becoming more and more distant. Letting the little girl leave and leaving alone, Din Thien Tu smiled and thought about the person named Hua Quang just now. The way to operate energy is clearly that of a battle pet master, but in terms of training, it is also at a pretty good level. Din Thien Tu saw that these people were geniuses in both fields. He was a little sad that he couldn't find out any useful information, so he had to turn to another method. He pressed the watch again, switching from location mode to calling another student. As soon as the other person picked up the phone, Din Thien Tu immediately said, "I have a topic that has passed the research stage, only the conclusion remains. Do you want to take it?" The student on the other side was very excited to hear that, immediately agreed, and told him that he would do whatever he wanted, as long as he brought the topic into his hands. Then Din Thien Tu was not polite and told me there was someone from outside Tan Quang City who needed your help in investigating. The suspicious person he needed to investigate walked around Thien Long School for a long time, stopping at the school library, whose location had been sent by Din Thien Tu to the student he had just called. His professor card is being inserted into the machine to read the number of items that Bin borrowed from the library. The 7th level training book borrowed 67 rights, the level 8 book borrowed 14 rights and 5 level 9 rights, spent a total of 340,000 points from the instructor, and had more than 582,000 points left in the account, meaning that the average bowl got 30% of the points in one go. People's accumulation. He carried the third towering pile of books to the reception desk, so many that he had to send his teacher's card back later, then took it back after reading it because he couldn't hold it anymore. As soon as they left, several librarians rushed to ask each other, who was that student who could use such generous points? Normally instructors wouldn't be willing to spend so many points on reading books, but this person borrowed so much at once and didn't feel sorry at all. Oh, but this is the card of the most senior 8th grade instructor in the whole school. No wonder students dare to use so many points to borrow books. Surely he is the top student in the class, right? Bin left behind a stormy body for people to discuss for a long time, while I held all 86 books, placed them on the long wooden table, sat down in a comfortable chair and started reading. What Gi Han Wiem said was certainly not wrong. The Holy Light City base is truly a holy place that gathers the enthusiasm of trainers around the world. The amount of books is rich with a lot of knowledge divided into each level. Adding a professor card helped him borrow many types of high-level training books that were extremely rare on the market. On this side, Bin is tricked. How to train dragon beasts. Elements related to war pets or demon pets. And how to level up, enhance, and convert attributes. Encyclopedia of pet details are all here. Nothing is missing, as if using a GPT chart. If we go into more detail, it's okay for Bin to use his abilities and knowledge to train pets, but in the end he still can't learn from his mistakes. Because I lack basic knowledge, I just rely on experience, and after many times, I can find a solution to the problem. It's like a diver who only dives close to the surface of the water, without the ability to dig deeper into the ocean of knowledge. While the books taken from Trong Thien Long Library seem to have been compiled from experts who have trained teachers for thousands of years, why is Bin not interested? Because he has accumulated a lot of experience through actual combat? So when he first opened the book, Bin initially thought it was all dry, hard to swallow knowledge, written ramblingly and incomprehensibly. The more I read, the more interesting it became, like a diver who knew how to dive deep to the bottom of the abyss to be able to uncover the sparkling gems below. It is true that jade is only polished when polished, and educated people are wise. Time passed quickly in the busy city. Gradually the sunset tinted the buildings orange-yellow. Bin closed the book and let out a breath. In his hand was book number 86, the last book in the stack. Unexpectedly, he was so caught up in the knowledge that he couldn't stop. Looking back, he had already read all 86 books. Taking Din Thien Tu's professor card this morning was a wise idea. In addition to the books you can borrow, you also have the privilege of using a private reading room. Read as much as you want without being bothered by anyone, so Tabin can immediately devour all the books. He then brought each stack out to the cashier to return them, asking everyone how many piles of Tabin's 86 volumes he had to carry before he could return them all. Walking on the road, he had free time to think. Because he was so bookish, he used so many people's accumulated points. He didn't know if he could convert them into money to pay. Suddenly, Tabin felt embarrassed. I've borrowed so many things I still use, I'm afraid people will say I'm not reasonable. As his thoughts wandered, he bumped into a purple-haired girl coming from the other side of the hallway. The two of them collided, causing books to fall to the ground. She was also reasonable, confused, and sat down to help him pick up the books. Realizing that there was a tall pile, she asked where she was carrying it so she could help. The two of them brought the books to the librarian's counter to return them. After counting the number of books Tabin had borrowed, after completing the procedure, they were about to say goodbye to him. Suddenly the purple-haired girl stepped up and asked curiously about the number of books. I didn't pay attention before, but now I see that the book, How to Cultivate 900 Practices at Level 9, is among the books Tabin has read. Ben asked him what level of training he was to be able to read this kind of high-level, scholarly scholarship. Tabin evasively said that this was the book the teacher asked me to return, not that I read it myself. Besides, I haven't taken the teacher training certificate yet, so I don't know what level one have. He was about to leave, but the girl waved her hand and pointed in another direction, unable to believe that there was a child in the academy who had never taken the teacher training certificate. Just in time, I need to take the supplementary exam for level 7 teacher training. Do you want to go with me? At noon, when I entered the door, I heard the roar of a pet beast full of fangs and claws closely following a student. He ran and shouted majestically while this pet was part of the teacher training test, causing the teacher to get angry and point his whip and curse loudly. Dude, are you here to take a training exam or are you here to practice running a marathon? Have any trainers ever seen a pet animal running with its legs on its neck like that? There is no dominance at all. Having finished speaking, the teacher directly slapped the whip on the student's back, making him scream in terror. The beloved uncle escaped but could not escape this teacher's stick. Even so, he still shouted, asking if he remembered? How can you train a cowardly teacher to train an animal? All three boys in the same group received the whip behind their backs and walked absent-mindedly towards the door, hearing the sharp voice of the teacher behind them. With that bit of bravery, you still want to come through my door? I don't have that belt. Let's go in for the next inspection. A few students waiting outside the door pushed back and forth. He grumbled that he didn't take the exam today and didn't see the date and then met the teacher who was strictly in charge of the exam. True to his name, this teacher is only serious and serious. The students are even rumored to be nicknamed the King of Hell, and maintains extremely strict assessment standards. When they see someone they don't like, they disappear in an instant, like fear in the student's eyes. No one wants to take the teacher training exam and have to face this teacher. So they turned their backs and left. The next group pushed the previous group aside. In a moment, besides Tabin and the purple-haired girl, there weren't many people left in the hallway. Some people in the crowd grumbled that the last time they took the level 5 test, they failed it once. They should wait until next month to take the test, and now they're worried that they'll end up in a bad position. Tabin didn't understand what the other person meant by having a classy figure, but the purple-haired girl explained it as if talking to an alien. Students take the master trainer exam but somehow don't know about it. The trainer's level is not the same as the battle pet master. The higher the bloodline and energy, the higher the rank, and the trainer's level is evaluated based on a separate standards testing mechanism. The first 6 levels require passing 6 tests of increasing level to advance, but if you fail the same test 3 times, you will be demoted to a lower level. That's why they're so afraid of failing the exam. Every time they fail the exam, the chance of falling to a lower level increases by 33%. After passing 6 levels, at level 7, you still have to take an additional thesis exam to be considered successful. Becoming a level 7 instructor means being eligible to graduate from the academy. So the training instructors who had graduated from school had all reached level 7. Tabin wondered if anyone was above level 7 and received a laugh from the girl. Training teachers from level 8 and above is enough to become a teacher, sir. And the training of top level 9 teachers has reached the level of senior professors and doctors. At level 10, they call the Holy Spirits always understanding, the different souls like saints that few people have the ability to. The tests were held several times a day, several times was fine. She let him know that before the teacher got off work, he could come and take the test at any time. By the way, Teacher Niem in front of him is famous for having deep hatred towards candidates. But she didn't dare take the risk, wanting to wait until next month to come back, like the others. It's very difficult to get to level 6, and I'm still a little closer to being qualified to graduate. I don't want to get into trouble because of haste. So he said it again and again. No one dared to step into the exam room, causing him to become so nervous that he timidly tapped the cane against his hand. Seeing the frightened looks of the students, the teacher pointed to a guy standing right in the middle of the front row and said personally, "Come in here. Go to the first row." And Tabin is the one standing in the middle. Just starting to take the level 1 assessment now, Tabin is not afraid of being demoted like other people. Plus, he never knew what fear was, so he just walked straight inside. The 2 male students next to him whispered, reminding them that the teacher was terrible, and the other was happy that someone had to take on Teacher Niem's heart and curse first. Just follow behind and eat leftover bullets. The strict teacher saw Tabin walk in and immediately realized he was a stranger. In addition to wearing clothes different from Trong Thien Long's uniform, he also has the ability to remember the contestants' faces. Ben then pointed to Bin through the system board to declare information first. The purple-haired girl listened to the 2 guys on the other side whispering that a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers, and indeed a level 1 person is not afraid of being demoted. Well, let that guy take the exam first so the teacher can fill his mouth with onions. Her eyes flashed with a vortex of energy, wanting to peek at the information Tabin filled in on the board. There was definitely a need for accurate information. Once she saw it, she would clearly understand who the person in front of her was, because she didn't believe what he had just said to her in the library. The enhanced vision zoomed towards the place where Tabin was tapping. This skill allowed her to project vision greater than normal, just like wearing close-up glasses on a person with normal eyes will make the scene seem to be drawn closer to her and become brighter. Transparency increased significantly, but strangely, how could she not see what the young man was typing? His image, the electronic board and the letters kept dancing and twisting in front of him and strangely reversed each other. She thought she had a problem with her eyes, like she was dizzy or something, but she didn't bite the rock. But the images kept overlapping each other like that. Rubbing her eyes and trying again several times, seeing the same thing, she finally gave up. Who knew Tabin had actually used a white layer of star energy disturbance, a high-level star power control technique used to distort the surrounding light, shielding things that didn't want to be seen by others with powerful eyesight like just now. Okay, did you think he was that easy? From the very beginning, you didn't want to reveal your identity. When you typed in your information, you were even more discreet. The loudspeaker announced that Tabin's entry number was 44. The system had not yet recorded the number of competitions and failures, so it was true that level 1 evaluation had just begun. After the registration process was completed, Tabin and the other 2 male students who came to the same level test were assigned to enter the area where strange animals were placed. Some distance away from the 3 stone pillars is a large cage containing 3 strange white silver mice.